name is Lucy. I'm 34 years old, married, with a quiet life that I used to think was immune to family drama. Never could I have imagined that someone in my own family would try to hijack the one sanctuary we all cherished, my grandmother's house. That house wasn't just a building, it was memory itself. Built in the 1950s by my grandfather, it had those creaky wooden floors that talked when you walked at night. A big white porch swing that squeaked when Grandma sat on it, shelling peas or telling stories about her wild youth. It was the last place in the world where I felt safe. And in the span of a few weeks, my sister-in-law, Maddie, tried to steal that peace away. Some people see kindness as weakness. Maddie was one of them. At first, I thought she was just socially clueless, arriving uninvited, plopping herself on Grandma's couch without so much as a "hello, may I?" I used to make excuses for her. She's not used to our ways, I told myself. She'll learn. But she didn't. She got worse. It started small. She'd linger after everyone else left, digging through Grandma's kitchen for snacks, making herself tea and not even bothering to wash the cup. I tried to gently remind her. "Hey, Maddie, Grandma's old. Let's tidy up so she doesn't have to." She would smile with that infuriating smirk and say, "Of course," and then leave her mess anyway. Grandma, being too polite to say anything, would just sigh and clean it herself. I noticed the look in her eyes, tired, hurt. That's when I first felt the twinge of anger, but I kept quiet. After all, family harmony was important. That's what I told myself. Until one day, Maddie showed up while I was helping Grandma sort her medications. She didn't even wait to be let in. I was at the front door with grocery bags, and she literally jumped out of her car the moment she saw me, pushed past me, and entered the house without a word. I remember the bags almost slipping from my hands. "Hi to you too," I muttered under my breath. She didn't hear, or didn't care. Grandma looked so startled. She had her pillbox open, the little compartments spilling their contents on the coffee table. "Hello, Maddie," Grandma said, voice trembling just a little. Maddie didn't even notice. She was too busy taking off her shoes and tossing them in the hallway. I watched, and something inside me went cold. I started paying attention after that. It wasn't a one-time thing. She began showing up at random hours, once at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. Grandma answered the door in her robe, hair in curlers. Maddie breezed past her, plopped on the couch, and started a loud phone call with a friend about party plans. Grandma sat there clutching her robe, lips pursed so tight they turned white. I wanted to yell. Instead, I sat there in silence, watching, learning. Then came the incident that really opened my eyes. I wasn't there in person for this one, but Grandma called me afterward, voice shaking. Maddie had apparently decided she was going to help out in the kitchen. She turned on the faucet to rinse dishes and walked away to take a phone call. She left it running. By the time Grandma noticed, the sink had overflowed. Water soaked the cheap linoleum floor. It seeped into the seams, curling the edges. Grandma was 82, arthritic knees, trembling hands, and she was trying to mop it up alone when Maddie finally wandered back. Do you know what Maddie said? "Oh, wow, sorry, didn't think it would flood so fast." Then she left. I visited Grandma the next day. I saw the floor, warped, stained, ruined. And I saw the receipt from the plumber, $300. Grandma didn't want to ask my parents for help. She paid it out of her pension. She didn't want to make a fuss. She told me all of this while folding her hands in her lap, looking down. I wanted to scream. I didn't. Instead, I nodded, squeezed her hand, and said, "Don't worry. I'll handle it." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, thinking about all the small indignities, the ignored greetings, the dirty dishes, the water damage, Grandma's bowed head. I realized Maddie wasn't clueless. She was testing us. Testing how much she could take before someone pushed back. I felt my heart racing in the dark, and in that moment, I decided that if she was going to treat us like fools in our own home, then I'd give her a lesson she wouldn't forget. But it wouldn't be a screaming match. It would be quiet, methodical, petty, perfect. I didn't act right away. I wanted to watch her, to see if she'd change, but also to confirm what I suspected. For the next couple of weeks, I visited Grandma more often. I told her I wanted to help around the house, which was true, but the real reason was that I didn't want Maddie getting her claws deeper in. It was unsettling how brazen she became. One afternoon, I sat with Grandma sipping tea when I heard a car door slam outside. Maddie didn't even bother knocking, just twisted the doorknob and walked right in, tossing her bag on the floor. She didn't even say hello at first. She saw me, gave me this tight-lipped smile that didn't touch her eyes, and said, "Oh, you're here." I didn't reply. She tried to act like she owned the place. She sat on the arm of Grandma's chair, actually on it, chatting about how she was thinking of helping out more often, so Grandma wouldn't have to live alone. She used that phrase so sweetly it made my stomach turn. Grandma didn't look thrilled. She thanked her in that polite, strained voice old Southern women use when they're 2 seconds from snapping. Maddie didn't catch it, or pretended not to. Later that week, Grandma told me Maddie had offered to move in for a bit, said she'd help pay bills. But we both knew Grandma didn't need the money. She was proud, independent. It wasn't about paying bills. Maddie wanted control. I asked Grandma what she said. She looked away, folding her napkin in her lap. I told her I'd think about it. My heart sank. I said carefully, "You don't have to let her in." "You know that, right?" She gave me a brittle smile. "I know, dear." That was when I knew she was scared of confrontation. I remember sitting in my car outside that night, staring at the dashboard. My fingers were tight on the steering wheel. I realized Maddie was counting on Grandma's politeness. She was counting on all of us to stay silent so she could just slip in like a parasite. It made me furious. But fury alone wasn't going to help. That night, lying in bed, I went over every moment with Maddie in that house. Every smirk, every sidelong comment. Every time she ignored Grandma's discomfort. I thought about the water damage she caused and brushed off. The shameless way she offered to move in like she was doing Grandma a favor. I needed her to understand she was not welcome, but I also wanted it to be something she couldn't play victim over. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to threaten. I was going to make her uncomfortable, so I started planning. First, I ordered a bunch of custom signs online. Nothing too rude, just firm. Polite, but with teeth. One read, "Please knock before entering Grandma's home." Another said, "Guests are welcome by invitation only." I showed them to Grandma before I put them up. I remember she blinked at them, then gave this tiny, delighted laugh. "Oh, Lucy," she said, patting my hand. "I like these. They're very clear." We put them up together. On the door, in the hall, even on the fridge. The best one was on the fridge. It read, "If you make a mess, please clean it up. Grandma isn't your maid." Grandma's eyes twinkled when she read it. That's the one I love best. I swear she looked 10 years younger that day. But I didn't stop with the signs. I made a point of being at Grandma's house every time I knew Maddie might show up. I wanted to see her reaction. And sure enough, the next Saturday morning, she arrived. She didn't knock. She twisted the handle like always, pushing the door open. But this time she froze. Right at eye level was the first sign. "Please knock before entering Grandma's home." I watched her eyes dart across the letters. I sat calmly on the couch, coffee in hand. "Morning, Maddie," I said. She hesitated, actually hesitated, then gave this brittle little laugh. "What's this?" Grandma was there too. She cleared her throat. "Just a reminder, we like people to knock." Maddie's face tightened. "Oh, sure, okay." She stepped back, knocked, one loud, sarcastic rap, and walked back in, but she was rattled. I could see it in the way she avoided my gaze. She sat stiffly on the couch, didn't make her usual mess in the kitchen, didn't fling her shoes in the hallway. At one point she started to get up, glanced at the fridge sign, and sat back down. I didn't say a word, I just watched. Grandma offered her tea. Maddie accepted but carried the cup so carefully you'd think it was priceless crystal. I sipped my coffee slowly, savoring the silence. Later that day, after she left, Grandma let out this big sigh and slumped in her chair. "Thank you, Lucy," she said softly. I shook my head. She needed a reminder whose house this is. Grandma smiled. A real smile this time. I squeezed her hand, but even as I left that evening, I knew Maddie wasn't done yet. People like her don't give up easily. I knew rattling her once wouldn't be enough. Maddie was the type to lick her wounds and come back with a new strategy. She liked to play the innocent daughter-in-law who was just trying to help, while slowly taking over. So I decided if she wanted to play mind games, I'd play better. I spent a couple of evenings drafting more signs on my laptop. Not just the polite please knock types, but subtler, sharper ones that would get under her skin without looking overtly hostile. One read, "Family is welcome, entitlement is not." Another, "Grandma's house, respect required." My favorite said, "Visitors who overstay make poor guests." I printed them on pretty floral paper so they looked harmless at a glance. I even bought cheap little picture frames from the dollar store and set them up around the house like tasteful home decor. Grandma watched me do it, chuckling under her breath. She was in on it by then. "I feel like we're setting traps," she whispered, eyes sparkling. "We are," I replied, grinning. "Pretty ones." It felt good to have her on board, but I didn't want it to stop at signs. I started coaching Grandma in her own polite but firm boundaries. She'd always been too soft-spoken. I told her she didn't need to explain herself to anyone about who could visit or when. We practiced little phrases she could use. "I'm sorry, but today doesn't work for me. I'd appreciate it if you'd call first. I don't want anyone staying over." It felt strange, like I was prepping her for battle, but it was necessary. I saw the hesitation in her eyes at first, decades of being polite, accommodating, non-confrontational, but she was tired, and she was ready. Meanwhile, I played my own part. Whenever Maddie texted me about dropping by, I would text back immediately. "Grandma said she'd rather rest today. She's not up for visitors right now. Let's plan another day." Sometimes I added, "She asked me to let you know," which was true because I asked her first. I was the gatekeeper now, and I made sure Maddie knew it. The first time I turned her away over text, she didn't reply for hours. When she did, it was dripping with forced sweetness. "Oh, sure, hope she feels better." I showed Grandma. She snorted. We both laughed until we cried. It was the first time in months she'd laughed like that. But I knew she'd try again. She did. One afternoon she texted me saying she was already on her way. No asking, no checking. "I'll be there in 10. I didn't reply. I called Grandma. "Lock your door. Don't open it unless you want to." Grandma hesitated. I could hear her breathing on the line. Then she whispered, "Okay." When I got there later, she told me Maddie had banged on the door for 5 minutes straight before leaving in a huff. I didn't feel sorry, not one bit. And it wasn't just about keeping her out physically. I started telling the rest of the family carefully, calmly what was happening. Not dramatic, just facts. Maddie's been showing up unannounced a lot. Grandma's uncomfortable. She even left the water running and flooded the floor. She wants to move in rent-free. I watched the shock on their faces. My parents were appalled. My brother, who was Maddie's husband, went quiet. He didn't argue with me. He didn't defend her, which told me he already knew she had these tendencies. That was part of the plan, too, because I wanted her isolated, no allies, no sympathy. If she wanted to manipulate her way into Grandma's house, she'd have to do it knowing everyone was watching. The last part of my preparation was the family gathering. We held a small dinner for Grandma's birthday. Maddie showed up. She was stiff, smiling too widely, trying to act normal. She saw the signs, all of them, and the framed ones on the mantel, the big one on the fridge. She read them all while Grandma beamed and offered her cake. She didn't say a word about the signs, but I watched her eyes narrow. She knew exactly who they were for, and that was exactly what I wanted. After that birthday dinner, there was a subtle shift in the air. Maddie didn't say anything about the signs, but her visit stopped for a couple of weeks. I noticed Grandma relaxing, moving around the house, humming to herself, actually sleeping through the night without checking the locks 3 times. For a moment, I let myself hope it was over, but I knew better. People like Maddie don't back off that easily. She was regrouping. I could see it in the family group chat. She started messaging Grandma with sugary check-ins. "How are you feeling today? Need anything?" Then she'd hint she was just in the area, fishing for an invitation. Grandma stayed polite but neutral. She'd thank her, say she was resting, and ignore the bait. I stayed vigilant. Every time she tried to set something up, Grandma would call me first. We'd talk it through. We practiced saying no. Sometimes I felt guilty coaching my own grandmother on how to reject her granddaughter-in-law. But it was necessary. Then came the day she decided to test us again in person. I was at Grandma's house that Saturday, folding laundry with her while a pot of soup simmered on the stove. We heard a car door slam outside. Grandma froze. I didn't. I calmly wiped my hands on a towel and went to the front door. I waited. There was the knock, just once. Sharp, I opened it slowly to see Maddie standing there, arms folded, eyebrows raised. "Oh, you're here," she said flatly. "Good morning," I replied, cool as ice. She tried to peer past me into the house. "I thought I'd come say hi to Grandma." "She's resting right now," I said. Maddie's lips tightened. "Is she really? Or are you just saying that?" "She's resting," I repeated calmly. There was a long silence. She glanced at the "Please knock" sign on the doorframe and actually sneered. Cute, very subtle. I didn't rise to it. "Glad you noticed." Her eyes narrowed. "You know, it's really rude to keep family out." I smiled slightly. "It's rude to barge in uninvited. This way, everyone's clear on the rules." She huffed, shifting her weight from foot to foot. "Is there anything you want to say to Grandma? I'll pass it along," I offered sweetly. She hesitated, her jaw worked. I could see the calculation in her eyes. She was deciding if she wanted to make a scene. But she didn't. Instead, she smiled, sharp, fake. "Tell her I hope she's well." "I will," I said, nodding. And I shut the door. Inside, Grandma was sitting in her armchair, eyes wet. I went over and sat beside her, taking her hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," I told her firmly. "You don't have to let her in. It's your house." She nodded shakily. "I heard everything," she added, voice cracking a little. "Good," I said, squeezing her fingers. "Next time you can say it yourself if you want. Or not. It's your call." She closed her eyes, breathing deeply. For the rest of the day, the house felt peaceful. But the real payoff came later. Maddie couldn't keep the story to herself. She vented to my brother, who in turn called me. He sounded tired. "Lucy, did you really turn her away from Grandma's house?" "I did," I said evenly. "Grandma didn't want visitors that day. I respected that." He was silent for a moment, then he sighed. "She's been upset about it all day." "Did she tell you she used to walk in without knocking, or flood the kitchen and leave Grandma to clean it up?" He didn't answer right away. I pressed on, voice steady. "Did she tell you she tried to move in, rent-free?" Another long pause, then finally he exhaled. "Yeah, she mentioned it." "She's not welcome to show up unannounced anymore," I said gently. "If she wants to visit, she can ask, like anyone else." He didn't argue, just said, "Okay, I'll talk to her." After that call, I sat in my own living room, phone still warm in my hand, heart pounding. It wasn't triumph exactly that I felt, more like relief, because the real victory wasn't humiliating her at the door, it was making sure everyone knew the truth. That Grandma's house wasn't hers to commandeer, that there were rules now, she could still visit. But she'd knock, she'd ask. She'd remember who the house belonged to. And that was enough for me. I didn't see Maddie for nearly 2 weeks after that last door incident. It was blissfully quiet. Grandma seemed lighter, humming while she watered her violets, taking afternoon naps without worry. I visited often just to sit with her, enjoy the silence. But I knew it wasn't truly over. One thing about Maddie, she hated losing face. She'd been humiliated being turned away, and it gnawed at her. I could see the tension brewing in the family chat, shorter messages, passive-aggressive smiley faces. She'd make cryptic comments like, "Some people just love drama," without naming me. Grandma ignored it, I ignored it. But then came Sunday dinner. We were all expected at my parents' place, one of those semi-formal family gatherings with pot roast and store-bought cake, my dad in his pressed shirt, my mom fussing over place settings. Grandma wanted to go but felt nervous. "Lucy, will you sit next to me?" she asked quietly while she pinned her hair. "Always," I promised. We arrived together, arm in arm. Maddie was already there, perched on the armrest of the couch in her tight jeans and flowy blouse, looking like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. She smiled when she saw us. "Hi, Grandma. Hi, Lucy." Her tone was painfully bright. Grandma tightened her grip on my arm but forced a smile. "Hello, dear." Dinner was excruciating. Everyone tried to pretend things were normal. My brother sat stiffly, barely looking at his wife. My parents exchanged worried glances. Conversation stumbled along. Weather, grocery prices, an old family recipe. But Maddie wouldn't let it lie. Halfway through dessert, she set down her fork with a little clink and sighed dramatically. "I just don't know why it's so hard to visit Grandma anymore," she announced. The table went silent. I felt my jaw tighten. Grandma froze, spoon halfway to her mouth. My mother cleared her throat. "Maddie, maybe this isn't the time." No, Maddie said, leaning forward, voice trembly with false hurt. "I just think it's sad. I try so hard to help out, but some people want to make me feel unwelcome." Her eyes flicked to me. I put my spoon down slowly. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even glare. I spoke calmly, evenly. "Maddie, you're welcome to visit. You're just not welcome to barge in without knocking." She blinked. "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "I'm family. I shouldn't have to ask permission." Grandma's voice came, quiet but firm. "Yes, you do." Maddie whipped her head toward her. "What?" Grandma set her spoon down with trembling fingers but lifted her chin. "This is my home. I want people to knock. I want them to ask if it's a good time. That's not unreasonable." The room was dead silent. Maddie's mouth worked soundlessly for a moment. I watched her try to recover. "But I was just trying to help. You're old. You shouldn't be alone." Grandma's eyes sharpened. "I'm old, not helpless, and certainly not in need of someone who leaves water flooding my floor and walks away." Maddie flushed deep red. My brother winced but didn't intervene. I stayed quiet, letting Grandma take the lead. Finally, Maddie blurted, "This is insane. I can't believe you're all ganging up on me." She stood up so quickly her chair screeched on the floor. "I was trying to do something nice." Her voice cracked. I leaned back, arms folded. "No one said you can't visit," I repeated evenly. "We just want you to show respect. That's it." Maddie shook her head, eyes shiny with tears. "Forget it," she spat. She grabbed her purse and stomped out. The front door slammed behind her. Silence fell. I turned to Grandma. She was breathing hard, eyes glassy, but she nodded slowly. "Thank you," she whispered hoarsely. I reached for her hand. "You did that, not me." She squeezed my fingers. My parents sat frozen. My dad cleared his throat. Well, that was eventful. My mom wiped her eyes. She needed to hear it. My brother didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, he rubbed his temples. "I'll talk to her," he muttered. I nodded once. "Make sure she knows the rules," I said. He met my eyes, no anger, just resignation. "Yeah, I will." After dinner, I drove Grandma home. We didn't talk much on the ride, but when I helped her out of the car, she paused on the driveway, looking up at her little house, porch light glowing. "Do you think she'll come back?" she asked softly. I took a deep breath. "Maybe, but next time she'll knock." Grandma let out a shaky laugh. "That's all I want." I walked her inside, shutting the door firmly behind us. The weeks that followed were quieter than I expected. Maddie didn't show up at Grandma's house. She didn't even text her much. It was like she'd decided to go dark, licking her wounds somewhere else. Grandma noticed, of course. She'd ask now and then if I'd heard anything. I always told her the truth, that Maddie was being quiet, that maybe she needed time to cool off. Grandma would nod, pressing her lips together. She never said she missed her. But sometimes she looked sad in that complicated way older people do, the way you can miss the idea of family even when you're grateful for the distance. I kept coming over. I made sure Grandma didn't feel alone. We'd cook dinner together, sort through old photos, even watch her silly game shows in the evenings. She started sleeping better. She told me she felt safe in her own home again. That was all I wanted. My brother eventually called me. He sounded defeated but calm. She's not happy," he admitted. "But she understands she can't just barge in anymore." "Good," I said simply. "She wants to apologize. Eventually." I let out a slow breath. "Let her, but tell her she doesn't get to move in? Ever." He sighed. "Yeah, I know. We didn't fight. We didn't blame each other. We both knew who the problem was." A month later, Maddie finally showed up again, but this time she texted me first. "Is it okay if I come visit Grandma this afternoon?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I showed it to Grandma. She read it carefully, her thumb brushing over the screen. She looked at me and whispered, "Yes, but only if she knocks." So I replied, "Sure. Just remember to knock." When Maddie came that day, she knocked. She stood on the porch waiting, fidgeting with her phone. When Grandma opened the door, there was an awkward silence. Then Maddie said softly, "Hi, Grandma. May I come in?" Grandma smiled, not wide, but real. "Yes," she said. "You may." Watching that moment, I felt something settle inside me. Not triumph, not revenge in the fiery, movie-worthy sense. Just balance, boundaries, respect. Grandma got to feel like the queen of her own castle again, and I got to keep my promise to protect her. Not with screaming or drama, but with quiet, deliberate insistence on what was right. Yeah, I still remember the way Grandma's voice trembled when she told me about the flood. Her small, wrinkled hands twisting that plumber's receipt in her lap, too proud to ask for help. I can see it every time I close my eyes. I remember the first time Maddie actually knocked, her knuckles hesitating just before they hit the door, her eyes flicking to the sign, realizing she couldn't pretend anymore. Most of all, I remember Grandma's relief, the way she sank into her chair with a deep sigh after Maddie left. How she looked at me and simply said, "Thank you," her voice cracking. Those little moments are what mattered, not humiliating Maddie, not winning, just making sure Grandma felt safe in her own home. It wasn't dramatic revenge, it wasn't flashy, but it was real, and it worked. If you've ever had to stand up for someone you love or set boundaries no one else would, you know how hard it can be. Share your own stories in the comments. I'd love to hear how you handled it. And if you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing for more true life tales.